Avraham Shira. We've been doing a daily class on Rebbe Nachman for over 3 years now. And we're going paragraph by paragraph, idea by idea. And some of the ideas are very esoteric and require a lot of explanation. And some move quickly, and some push our buttons, and some open up our eyes to things we never would have thought. And tonight, this whole idea of stealing and adultery, he brings together in the same thought. And he tells us in Torah 69, when a person steals from his friend. Now, in Torah talk, chavro means any fellow man, not your good buddy, right? Just any fellow man. He starts to think about the guy's wife. And I guess it would work the other way too, for a woman. Ki, bevadai, hu medabek v'nechsaf le'eshet chavero shegazlo. Because he says certainly he's going to lust after and desire the wife of his friend because he already took his money. And we learned that a person's wife is the conduit of his money. As the physical world absorbs energy from the spiritual world, it's going through filters. And one of the filters of a man is his wife, and she is a filter of the light of God to him. And one of those lights is called money. And so when a person steals a guy's money, he's automatically taking from the life force of his wife and his children. We've already learned in earlier portions of this class. So now we come to the part of, thinking about doing other sins. And through that money that he took from him, shehu or a nafsha, because that's the light of her soul. And the wife will also think about him. She doesn't even know why. She doesn't even know that any theft has taken place. Necessary. Because by taking the money, he's drawing her closer to him. Because again, that money is not just a representation of on paper or coin. It is soul power invested in the currency, in the money. And money is all built on this idea of a common faith in a currency. That that if you buy or sell with your nation's currency, then other people are going to honor it. And that's a collective faith in the currency. Validation, and because he draws his soul to hers, both of them think of each other in the wrong way. Valkain. Amru Chazal, our sages taught, yored leumanut chavero, somebody who, let's say, goes after somebody else's source of living. Like, somebody that has a butcher shop down the street and say, well, you know what, I'm a better butcher than him. I could do better business. I'll go open up right next to him. Take his clients. That's also something we don't do in Torah. And that idea of going after somebody else's living is also the idea of going after somebody's wife. Right? It's an aspect of this verse, and the wife of his youth he did not make impure. Ki hu ba umetame mamash eshet re'ehu ayedei agazela. So what happens is that there's a level of impurity, spiritual impurity, that transfers between the thief and the wife, because the money, again, is this conduit filter of the energy of the money represents. And what is impurity? Well, impurity is desire for the wrong things. To be very general, impurity appears in our consciousness as thinking of things we wouldn't normally do, wanting to do things we wouldn't normally think of doing. That's how it appears, though. There's many layers or levels of impurity, but here we're talking about a very serious one, which incurs the death penalty with proper witnesses and warnings. And a thief, or it can also lose his wife, his true wife, because of his thieving. Because he looked at his friend's money and with a desire, I knew or batzugo, which is again the light of his wife's soul. And then he becomes impure from that desire for someone else. See, because impurity isn't just like touching a dead rat, God forbid. It's the desire itself for the thing that we know is wrong, is the conduit, is the impurity. It's that channel of wanting something that is not good for us. So it appears in consciousness as wanting things you don't want. That means you've been made impure somehow. And the ways that we're talking about here are rather, not unfamous, I should say. And he doesn't even want his own wife. Now he wants the other guy's wife because he took her money. Becomes like, Maim genuvim yimtaku. The stolen waters are sweeter. I think you all understand. And he's not really, he doesn't want what he has. In his own money, he wants the other guy's money. And it ends up being also perhaps his wife. Or batzuk shelo, and the person who's been stolen from his wife. Okay, he pone et atzmo mimena umitracheket mimenu. And then it causes the same inverse reaction on the other side of the coin, that suddenly the wife is not interested in her husband because somebody else has been taking her light. And since a man distances himself from his true wife, what is she going to do? She's like, what's wrong with this guy? He doesn't want me anymore? She starts looking around too. As the sages taught, mashal isha, a dugma, an example, a metaphor to a woman, shehi mamtenet laish, that she is waiting for the man. See, in the old-fashioned way, today it's a little different, so I've heard, that, the old-fashioned way is that women would wait for the man to make the move. That's the whole idea of buying the ring and asking the question. Guy, it's your job. And all the while that he is thinking of marrying her, she's waiting. Because there's a psychic connection between the two people. I don't need to describe that too much, right? Everybody knows. You're dating somebody, you like them, they like you, you're wondering, well, where is this going? It's a very natural thing. But it's upon the man to do the work, to break his ego and to make himself vulnerable and say, honey, you're the greatest. Let's get married. Will you marry me? Okay, but because now he's separated his mind from her and he's thinking about something else, somewhere else. She can also go off and marry somebody else. So this could be before the wedding or after. Therefore, if the thief has no wife, he can lose his own true wife, the one that's supposed to come to him. וגם יכול הגזלן לפעמים לגזל מחברו אפילו הבת זוג של הנגזל. It can get to a level where a thief will even end up taking not only the money but the wife herself. והכל לפי תוקף החוזק מתאוותו והשקו והתגברותו על ממון חברו והרהור מעשה. And all of these variations that we're talking about depends on his desire, his lust, his longing, and his actions. עד שאפשר שיתגבר ויקח גם את בת זוג Shel Haviro Nigzal, so that he can actually end up taking the other man's intended wife. Because he's attached to the soul through the money. Wanting the money is wanting someone's soul. Because what is your money? What is your soul? Your money is your blood, sweat, and tears, or whatever else you got to put into it. Your concentration, your dedication, your sleeplessness, whatever self-sacrifice you make for money is your soul going into the money. And someone else takes it from you, they're taking a piece of you. And it hurts. And anybody that's ever been stolen from knows this. You feel like a real violation. Shuor nefesh batzugo, and that the money is the light of the wife's soul. Al ken lefamim nimshecheti batzma gam ken achar hamamon shenigzal. Ze hagazlan mibala. And therefore she can also, another permutation of this possibilities is that she'll get the lust for the money that the thief stole. Oh, you stole from my husband? I'm going to steal from you. Or she might not even know that the theft took place, but she can still end up wanting that money. So he repeats the idea, a man can steal a wife along with the money. Through the money that he's taken from him, and through the actual hands of taking the money, which nowadays, you could be a hacker and they're just doing it with pixels, or chemda, the lust itself can do the job. Because lust is a powerful thing. And when you have lust for something, you send a beacon to it. And it's very dangerous. Kida, we should know. Through the longing, the lusting, and the wanting of the money of his friend. Because the power of the mind is very strong. As is explained in another place, and therefore a man could have stolen money and not even know it in his presence, in his possession. And even though he hasn't taken anything. And this is this very serious forbidden thing in the 10 Commandments. The 10th Commandment says, Bal tachmo, don't lust, don't covet. That's one of those old English words. I'm not sure. Do you covet? It's a little old-fashioned. Lo tachmod, don't go after that. It's a very serious thing. That's why, I remember when we were kids, we'd go to the mall, and shop. But, we had like $5 in your pocket. How much shopping can you do? Even back then. But you see, the actual act of shopping is building chemda, desire, lust for things, for materialism, for all the things that are there in the mall. First floor, second floor, third floor. The things that you're not even allowed in the store. Rahman al-Islam, the Rebbe says, mercy upon him. Ki yesh ba ko acham dar legzal mimenu mamono v'nefesh banav ubenotav kanal. And he repeats the whole string again. A person through his lust can cause theft and even the loss of his own children. So therefore, there's an isur even in thinking about doing it. The old idea, that the bank robber sits and plans the whole bank robbery out in every detail, and every detail contains a spark of his lust for money. And it goes right in there. That's already over. That already creates an impure connection to the item. As it's taught in Baba Matzia, in that tractate, someone who, say someone puts money in your presence, actually guard this for me. I'm going away, I need you to guard this for me. And it's sitting there in your special box, and you start thinking about it. Wow, I could borrow that money. I could use that money. I could get it back to him later. He might not return from Taiwan. I don't know. And people start thinking thoughts like that. That already is the revelation of the chemda, of the lust, of the covetousness. Ki haplugta hi rakim hayav al ze kamo ashaloyach yad memamash. And the only distinction is whether or not he actually reaches out with his hand and takes it. Because that becomes the cement on the deed. Aval, Isur yesh bavadai lebli lekuli alma, but nonetheless, there is still the Isur of the desire, the lust itself. Now you can look, we're human beings. You drive down the road and you see someone's got a $500,000 car, you're like, whoa. It's very hard not to be interested. But if you knew what the insurance rate on that car was, you wouldn't be interested. Or what it would cost to replace a side view mirror or a flat tire. So, it's all relative. But the Torah doesn't really worry about somebody else's Lamborghini. The lust itself is the problem. So if we can just clip the lust early, say, no, that's not for me. That's not my car. I'm very happy with my 23-year-old Toyota. It's fine. Looks good. Rides nice. And you know what? You have a lot of peace of mind when you don't want other people's stuff, and especially their money, and certainly not their wife. And you're not even thinking who thinks about children, but it's all part of the equation. And the Rebbe is showing us here the interconnectedness of all these desires and where they can lead to. And very innocent people have been led astray because they had a little thought and they nursed the thought and nurse it and play on it and work with it and let it play on them until one day they decide, I can get away with this. Because that's one of the things, they did a lot of research, psychology research and criminology about this. And they see that the thief really believes he's going to get away with it. He says, no thief will steal if he thinks that he's going to get caught. He goes in with the idea he's not going to get caught. He just, I'm Superman. He's going to fly in there and take the guy safe and fly on out. But I think it should help us appreciate that we have a law, we have a God. And the God is saying, it's not just the surface of the law, it's your heart, it's your mind. And if you guard those places, you're going to be pure and be right by me. You're going to feel wholesome, you're going to feel good, you're going to feel shalem with your life, you're going to feel complete. And because all those jealousies and lusts and covetousness, they just split our soul into pieces. And what we want is a unified soul, a powerful soul, that is going to be like a laser beam of desire for the right things, for the good things in this world. So, Shavua Tov, have a good week. We'll be here again, and we'll continue these amazing Torahs from Rebbe Nachman on our daily Patreon. You can support us over there. You can join us. You can become a member at any level you'd like. And, I speak one-on-one with people as well, about all kinds of things in life, because, sometimes we get stuck, and it's not like, the Zohar says that every question you have, the answer is always inside you. So when you go to a therapist or a counselor or a rabbi to get your answers, they're just helping you open up what's already inside you. So you can do the work. Open yourself up, open your heart, trust in Hashem. He will give you all your answers. God bless you all. Have a great week. We'll see you again.